Sharon. Good morning. Morning. Chase set the stage for a little reminiscing. So I have to do a little reminiscing too. I remember back in 1973 when Congress passed the Rehab Act of 1973, which had Section 503, 504, and Section 504 was to provide non-discrimination against individuals with disabilities in federally funded programs. It was passed in '73, but there was no effort to implement, to write regulations. So it took advocates to go to Washington, to chain themselves to the desk of the Secretary of Health and Human Services. So that says to me that people with disabilities were needed as advocates then. We're still needed as advocates now. Yes. Chase mentioned the fact that federal judges weakened the intent of the ADA. They essentially said that a person with a disability really could be discriminated against. And it took advocates again to work to bring about the changes that was the Americans with Disabilities Restoration Act. Again, it was advocates. An advocate that hasn't been mentioned today, but nationally worked for the passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Some of you may remember a person by the name of Justin Dark. It was due to his efforts in traveling all over this country, getting stories of discrimination. And then we had another advocate who you may not have heard of, whose name is Jim Dixon, who works for the Association of People with Disabilities, who advocated and worked with Congress to bring about accessibility to voting in the 2002 Help America Vote Act. This piece of legislation says that every polling place in the United States and territories of you to see that the polling places are accessible. But to date, based upon the information that we have at KDC, there are 31 counties that still have polling places that are not accessible. That's not acceptable.
Yeah, that's right.
It's up to you who live in the far reaches of the state to make sure that your polling place is accessible. If it's not, then let me know. Every polling place is also required to have an accessible voting machine. Those voting machines are to be in operation at 6 a.m. in the morning to 6 p.m. in the evening.
Yeah.
And if they're not, what are you going to do? You're going to let me know, okay? You need to let me know. If there is somewhere there's not an accessible machine, we've got to work to make sure that persons with disabilities have an equal opportunity to vote independently, to be able to access that polling place. And the only way that we can put pressure on our officials are to get out and vote.
Yeah.
First, you have to register to vote. So if you're not registered to vote, you can do it online. You can get cards from Centers for Independent Living. They can